this is not just about America. I mean, the entire Western Abrahamic thought process with which the international busybodies are being built upon after the Second World War, be it United Nations, so be it, I mean, if you just open the United Nations human rights declarations and stuff like that, you will find the word democracy over there. Now, what is the evidence that democracy is the format which is the best format which should be imposed upon every country, and who has the right to impose it? By the way, that is a question to be answered. If I am to answer, I would certainly say that the autonomous Janapada structure of ancient Bharat was something which was really a very modern and advanced form of governance structure. But right now, what we are reduced into a democratic format, the fundamental assumption which belies this format is that every vote is going to be a rational vote. And you, me, and everyone knows that this fundamental assumption is so incorrect that every voter is going to vote rationally, right? So this is democracy is inherently suicidal in this sense that if you're relying on crowds to be rationally voting without any influences, external influences, is something I do not believe to be a correct proposition, which is why I see in the future when the European Union will face crusades again with some of the young radicals which are being imported into Europe. It is very obvious that starting from UK, there are going to be street clashes between the natives and the radicals, because these are very young radicals imported from the Middle East who are radicalized by the clerics into blind acts of terrorism and whatnot, which the Europe will very soon witness. So I believe that will be the time when Europe will reinvent itself and revisit this democracy concept and the secularism concepts. And certainly, one of the transition which I foresee over the decades is that one family, one vote is something which is a natural outcome after the clashes and the chaos which this single person, single vote system will create in general in the future. So that is what one of the foretelling, if you say, I can do is one family, one vote is something which Europe will come up with once it faces the repercussions of the democratic format. So I believe that the fall of the fiat currency model will be the beginning of the rural, the native, the indigenous, the traditional, the dharmic values coming up in the world. And slowly and gradually Asia and Gulf will come out of this 18th century enlightenment with which they view the world in a Eurocentric way, that everything Western taken as modern. So slowly and gradually things are going to change, where even the democracy format or the secularism format, all the Western formats are going to be questioned one by one. And this will also include the scientific discoveries and inventions that has happened in the last 150 years. Even those will be challenged, because the natives of the world are going to dig up what their civilizational wisdom was prior to colonialism. So the rest of the world, they are going to recalibrate themselves, going back to that self-employment model, self-sustaining model of living life, out of the clutches of the employer-employment relationship, whereby the changes will come in the sense that the manufacturing, the farming, the real production, and along with that, the living standard will not be matched with something which is materialistic, but the living standard would be matched to something which is a social capital kind of a formula, wherein all the Western indexes will also be rejected in terms of whether you call it a per capita income. Now, just take an example of per capita income. Now, why would a country which is operating family unit economics, where the income is consolidated and the expenses per member comes to be the lowest, why would that kind of a country will require a high per capita income? It just makes no sense, right? So all these kind of Western formats and indexes are also going to be questioned and rejected in the new world which is coming up. And this all will have to do a lot with the collapse of the fiat uh, reserve currency status. Now the countries of the world have realized that there is no need of a single country reserve currency, which is going to bring massive macroeconomic changes, not just in terms of valuation of what people generate in their countries and in their daily lives, but also in terms of what countries trade with each other. Somehow there is a realization in the Gulf as well that a lot of their free crude oil wealth got wasted in the radicalization efforts and gimmicks to keep the US dollar going as a reserve currency in the Middle East and the Indian subcontinent. So they are also coming back to the roots of attaching themselves with ancient India, and they want to participate in now the real economics rather than moving towards those tiny, tiny corners of radicalized thoughts. So even that society is now evolving. They are also voicing up to Biden, not taking Biden's phone calls and whatnot. So I think a lot of the rest of the world is trying to wake America up. They're trying to bring UK and US out of that 18th century colonial mindset, and that is what this decade is going to be. So moving forward, what I see happening is next 2 to 3 decades, India, Russia, and China are going to fix and seal their individual spheres of influence. This is what I look at. I mean, if you look at the Indian Ocean, it has always been the main battlefield in the world. I mean, that's a pivot of global economics. That is where it happens. 90% of the raw materials, resources, gas, oil, everything flows from that peaceful ocean. But looking at what's going to happen next, as I see news of Raytheon and then General Electric and then Boeing and then Airbus and then Sundar Pichai being awarded in the West, and then he comes and meets our Prime Minister. Looking at all these changes which are happening, I believe the American some of the chunk of the American deep state companies, along with their technology, I feel will shift and settle in India over this decade. I mean, a lot of not just collaboration and technology transfer, but a lot of real deals and real manufacturing of the deep state technology and stuff is going to begin and happen in India. I mean, by the end of this decade, you will visibly see that big companies and technology has shifted to India. So over the period of time, India is going to regain the hard power which you are asking the question about. So it's not just going to be soft power, it's also going to be hard power. And the traditional Indian subcontinent with the concept of Akhand Bharat, which we call it, I believe that will extend from Saudi Arabia to Laos, Cambodia, wherein, even the Chinese economy, once it starts facing the economic crisis because of the aging population, even they will come to terms with the new changes and the emergence of India back onto the throne, which we have been for over 1700 years, if you consider the last 300 years as some kind of an aberration. So definitely you will see hard power coming out of India as well. It's not just going to be about the soft power.